Access Flash! You are a toy!
目を覚ませ僕らの世界が何者かに侵略されてるぞ
Hello and welcome to KamenRider Blackman, and today I am excited because we are reviewing our first anime based off of a show we have reviewed before, SSSS Gridman, based off of the original Denko Chojin Gridman. And don't worry, this is actually better than the original. Like, the original Gridman wasn't bad, but sometimes it was really insufferable. But this anime, however, was pretty solid from start to finish, with a couple of things about it, which we will talk about. But yeah, before actually talking about the show, this is our, I want to say second time actually looking at this show, but we're doing a full review of it. Because, well, longtime viewers on this channel would know, we actually have talked about this show before, when I did episode by episode reviews of it. But I never finished it. But it was never like a full priority for me to review every episode to begin with. It was something I just did every now and then. Not like the KamenRider ZO reviews, which, yeah, I never finished doing those episode by episode reviews when that show was out. But just like this show, I will do that most likely somewhere in the future. A full show review, that is. So now, just while I'm still talking about the show, rewatching it again was pretty nice. And then it was a good break away from tokusatsu, even if it was for like a week or so, because this show was like 12 episodes, and I managed to finish it up just like that. But it was a good break. So now, let's finally talk about the opening and the closing themes. I like the opening theme. It's a good song. It gives good details and descriptions of what the show is about. And for a song as a whole, it's really upbeat, which I definitely love. Now, but I was just thinking too, like this and the closing theme, they're a good balance off of each other, which not a lot of opening and closing themes are. They're either one tone and the other is another tone, which is good, but in terms of styles, like, I don't know how else to describe it, because like both are pretty J-pop heavy songs, and I don't know what's a good description of this. A best way to describe it would be, I guess, from my last review, the opening to KamenRider Amazon and the closing theme. The opening was good, and the closing theme was just average. Doesn't do anything too special. It talks more about Amazon, and it could make you a little bit more excitable. But for this song, it's a good thing to hype you up for what you're about to watch. And the closing theme will really calms you down and talks about enjoying the moment, this time right now. And I don't think a lot of opening and closing themes really do that together for a show. But this is one of those ones that actually does. So now, let's finally talk about the show. Starting off with episode 1. Oddly enough, the first episode and the last episode have the same title. So, episode 1, Awakening. Our story begins with Yuta Hibiki, our amnesiac protagonist, waking up on our second protagonist, Rika Tarada's couch. Yuta appears to have amnesia after passing out in front of Rika's home. If you haven't noticed the obvious have-seen-before signs in every anime, Yuta is special. He sees things that others can't, like kaijus and the hyper-aging Gridman broadcasting himself from an old-school computer. The third man of the Gridman Alliance that we meet is Yutsumi, Yuta's friend. He helps him out while he has amnesia and is a big Ultraman fan. He likes giant monsters and references the Ultraman series once an episode. Like, the first episode is a slow start, but once the giant monster battle comes in, it's totally worth it. Because, well, stuff happens. But even then, the first episode and everything is loosely based off of the original Gridman show that I'll mention in a little bit step by step. Like, instead of middle school, everyone's in high school. And our next important character is Akane. More on her later. For right now, let's talk about the suit, because when the first kaiju attack happens, everyone sees it and Gridman calls for Yuta to fuse with him. Again, like from the original show. However, unlike the original show, Gridman's first form is purple, but we're going to talk about that and his actual base form, because later on, well, it becomes red. So, the anime Gridman suit, it's not bad. I think it's pretty fine for the most part. Though I will say, for as much as I like purple and silver together, hashtag Kuga Titan form, I feel like it is nice though with the purple and silver, but I think with red and silver, it makes it work a lot more. Though I will admit though, I do like that helmet. And for as more as I look at the blue and silver form, well, no, I mean purple and silver form, mainly because right now I'm looking at a picture. I don't know, that could be just more my bias talking. But the point is, not a bad suit for the new, well, anime version. And so, going into the next episode, all of the damage from the kaiju attack rebuilds itself weirdly, and no one remembers yesterday. And to top it all off, certain students are dead and no one remembers them. Now, remember the girl I mentioned about a couple seconds ago, Akane? Well, she's the one creating the monsters. This is what I've been waiting for. Again, like from the original show with that kid, Takeshi. And they modernized it. Like, Akane is petty, but she's a scary kind of petty. Like, whenever Takeshi was petty, it was just jarring to watch. And it made me want to look at that kid and go, just stay away from me. For Akane, just bump into her and not apologize. You'll see cracks. Because that whole great, like, hot, like, straight A student, popular with everyone, that's all a facade for her insanity. And it's weird. Like, I'm not usually into petty villains, but I will say she does pull it off with how much she has no remorse in what she's doing. Also, in episode 2, we meet the first of the Neon Genesis Junior High students. Why and who the fuck came up with that name? I thought I just had a stroke saying that sentence. Like, we meet Samurai Caliber, and you know what he is? His cyber form is a talking sword that Gridman wields, called the Gridman Caliber. And I still like that sword. It's black and gold, and it's all it needs to be awesome. It's a simple sword, and later it becomes a battle axe, which makes it even more cool. And I know I've been referencing the original show a lot, but okay, let me start for a moment. Start back from here. I first watched the anime before I watched the original show, but now, since I've seen the 1993 version, it feels good to not ask how or where did certain characters come from, because it's all essentially multiverse theory, which we'll talk about a lot more in quite a bit. Which, by the way, every time Yuta has to transform, he has to go to Rika's computer at her house slash shop because her mom runs a restaurant, and that's the only place that and thing that Gridman can project himself from. Yeah, that's one thing that I consider a bit of a hindrance, especially when you consider how far along technology has come since the 90s. The fact that it like hit like if a kaiju attack is literally right in front of Yuta right now and Junk is like 30 miles away, he has to run for his life or whatever to go all the way there just to transform. Like, when you consider how far along technology has come along, you think Gridman would have bothered to, like, I don't know, download himself on a flash drive or even a SIM card for a cell phone? I'm just saying, because Gridman as a whole is like technology and computer themed. So you think like computers nowadays, like almost anything could have a computer, like an e-reader, which is old school, but or hell, a modern cell phone. Something like that could be useful so that he wouldn't have to go somewhere just to fight and save the day. Hell, a TV, maybe not a TV, but you get what I mean. Having to go all the way somewhere just to transform. Like, it's 2021 now. A cell phone. Or at least just something similar to. Moving on. Speaking of which, I haven't mentioned the main villain yet, Alexis Carob. He's a rendition of Condigifer and brings Akane sculptures to life. Though I'm curious why Super Riot named this guy Alexis, because not because it's a girl's name, but because I can only think of two Alexises now whenever I think of that. One is my cousin who recently had a baby, and the other one is a girl I used to date whose car smelled like weed. Story for another day. In episode 3, we get a couple new characters, starting with Anti, a kaiju with a human form, also created by Akane. So, let's talk about his kaiju form. It's not bad. Pretty simple, straight to the point. Well, maybe not simple, but it's not a bad monster form. He also has this nice ability where he can copy his opponent's abilities and use it against them, to which he does use almost all the time, really. And so, when Anti and Gridman first meet, one, he of course tried to kill him because that's his sole purpose, is to kill Gridman. And two, Yuta starts having a small conflict about wondering if kaijus are actually humans. They aren't, and he gets over it. And we meet the rest of the Neon Genesis Junior High students, Max, Boar, and Vit. These three make Gridman's other assist weapons. This is what I like about this show in this time right now. With these three, Gridman is essentially a Megazord with auxiliary Zords. Like, Max is a tractor that can become a set of bulky ass arms for more strength. Boar is a drill tank with guns because that's how he rolls. And Vit is a jet so Gridman could fly. Like, they're all going to all combine together later, but I like the fact that Gridman now has options. Like, back then, Gridman just had assistants, but he couldn't combine with them. And I like the fact that in here, he actually is able to, one at a time. I feel like that was pretty nice in having, well, variety. And fun fact, Max, Boar, and Vit are named after their American counterpart names of the assist weapons from Superhuman Samurai Cyber Squad. So, up to now, Akane has pieced together that Yuta is Gridman, and now sends Anti. Did I say sends? With an I and not an E? Anywho, in episode, Akane sends Yuta. No, fuck.
Did I stutter?
Akane sends Anti to go kill Gridman in episode 6. So, episode 6 is actually the time where both enemies learn about each other because Yuta learns about Akane from this little girl who turns out to be a kaiju. And about this little girl, her name is never said at all throughout the episode. She just so happens to be related to a kaiju that Gridman once saved from the original series. What writer thought that anyone would go that far and beyond to remember that? Hell, I had to look this up on the wiki because I was not going to figure it out on my own. So, the little girl explains that Akane is having kaijus destroy the city and kill certain people, and afterwards resets everything so that nothing was destroyed. No one remembers the giant monster attack, and only a few people are dead. And in episode 7, Akane and Yuta confront each other about their dual identities by Akane breaking into his house, taking a pillow over her face, and saying it smells like Yuta, and asking him to join her. And I'm sitting here shocked, like, they doing this with teenagers. They don't take it too far, except for how mentally insane she is. And it goes farther when Yuta, Akane, and Alexis Curb all have dinner together.
Cringe! That is cringe!
I haven't mentioned a lot about Alexis Curb. His whole thing is that he's attracted to hatred and is using and manipulating Akane for his own means. And it shows because in this episode exactly, he's attracted to Anti's hatred and he allows him to make a kaiju. And in battle as Sky Gridman, Gridman finds an upside down city right above him. The point of it is because Akane is apparently a god, and in this computer world that she created, it's meant as a form of escapism for her that, once again, I'll talk about in the very end. So, in episode 8, Akane challenges the Gridman Alliance directly, telling them that she's going to unleash an uber powerful kaiju at their school's festival. But in the interim, everyone plans to fight back, except for Rika, because they're talking about fighting one of their classmates, and Rika can't see herself going through with it if the worst ever happens. Now, for a comparison, one of the very reasons why I like Go Busters is because of how resolute the main three are with taking down Vaglass, even at the cost of losing their parents. Normally, something like this would make a protagonist very hesitant with fighting a villain with just the slightest connection to them. And in this case, Rika isn't hesitant, she's being more or less passive. Here's the difference. When someone is hesitant, they are unsure and are rather indecisive. When someone is passive, they are accepting of said whatever and just won't put up much of a fight. Yuta and Yutsumi try talking Akane out of it, and she won't budge. Rika tries to reason with her, and she just walks all over her about how she killed their friends. And it doesn't matter because she knows Rika won't hate her for it. That's how fucking deep she cuts, to disregard her actions. So now that's clear with everyone that this is all unavoidable and they have to prepare. I didn't mention this earlier because I was saving it for now. The assist weapons have tried to help Gridman with them all together before, but couldn't because their computer couldn't handle sending all four out at once. In this episode, they instead work around it by shrinking everyone's output size so that they'll all combine. So, let's talk about the combination mech, full-powered Gridman. He has a small-ass head and pretty large everywhere else. But aside from that, it's overall it's a good design. Very Gundam-like and just overall good design. Not even that it's huge or stocky, it's just for a total combination mech where you have a humanoid figure part of it, this works and it's solid. And looking at this mech right now, I realize that some of the mechs are kind of, well, I'm looking at two primary colors, silver and blue, which seems to be like a big part for the assist weapons here. But for the most part, it works. And so does that finisher with the Gridman caliber, where they all glow gold and just slash down the monster to kill it. So, yeah, this works. Pretty nice.